This meeting is being conducted remotely in accordance with Governor Healy's open meeting provisions updated in March of 2023, which extended certain COVID-19 provisions until March 31st of 2025. Real-time public participation and comment can be addressed to the Brockton Conservation Commission utilizing the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. If you wish to comment during a public input portion of the hearing, please use the raise your hand function to be addressed at the appropriate time. For those of you joining by phone only, please press *9 to raise your hand. A copy of this recording will be on the city's webpage. Please note that this is a professional meeting. Should disrespectful or inappropriate statements be made during the meeting, the host reserves the right to mute the speaker. All votes taken during this meeting will be done by a roll call to ensure count accuracy. Commissioners, please state your first and last name for the record so that we might establish quorum.
Ruby Clay.
Sharifa Mapp.
And Joyce Warris. So 3 are present out of 5, so quorum is established. Okay. Did everyone get a copy of the meeting minutes from June 26th?
Yes.
Okay, commissioners, you had a chance to read through those?
Yes, I have.
I did.
Looks
Any
good.
edits or comments or anything?
Nope.
Okay, then I entertain a motion, please, to accept the minutes.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from June 26th.
I second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Mapp, aye.
And Voris, aye. That motion passes. Thank you. Okay, the first new filing that we have on our agenda is a notice of intent for 446 Rockland Street. We have someone here for the applicant.
Yes, Scott Ferry of JK Holmgren Engineering is on. I've just promoted him to a panelist.
Okay. And one more, okay, wait, as soon as Scott's on, I'll just make a very quick statement. Hi, Mr. Ferrier, how are you?
Good evening, Madam Chair. Good. How are you tonight?
I'm really well, thank you. I just wanted to very quickly mention, and actually some of these are applicants that you're working with. I just wanted to very quickly mention the continuances, the ones that will be continued to our next meeting, which will be Wednesday, August 21st. It's number 6, 166 East Ashland Street, number 7, 511 Thatcher Street, number 9, 45 Industrial Boulevard, number 10, 0 East Ashland Lot A, number 11, 0 East Ashland Lot B, number 14, Newbury. That's the bridge project. Number 15 is the Warren Avenue 2-way, and number 16 is 1380 Main Street. Okay, so if there's anyone here from the public or that expected to speak to those issues, those will be continued until the next meeting on the 21st of August. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Faria, you have a new.
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Scott Farrier from Holmgren Engineering, representing Chantalise Smith, who owns a house at 446 Rockland Street. And Ms. Smith is hoping to build a new garage at her house. As you stand on Rockland Street, it's on the left-hand side of her house, furthest away from the wetland. The new garage will be about 58 feet from the wetland. We have siltation protection around the limit of work. It's within the existing lawn area. There's a very small garage there right now, Madam Chair. They're going to tear down the small garage, build a much bigger garage, but all of the new construction is within the existing yard area. So we would hope that the commission would issue an order of conditions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Just before we actually begin the hearing, Agent Holden, has there been a DEP file number associated with this, and have abutters been properly notified?
Yeah, so DEP did issue a file number, and they didn't issue any technical comments. And the abutters have been notified, and I did receive the proof of mailing.
Thank you. And Mr. Perry, I do want to say thank you for doing the project narrative included in the project narrative that you put in the letter to the commission. That was really nice. Thank you.
Kyle asked the last meeting to start doing that, so it's.
I appreciate it. It makes it so much easier keep everything tidy and know what we're talking about. Thank
It's a
you.
little more work than the one sentence that we usually give you, but if it keeps you folks happy, we'll keep doing it.
It's just finding the one sentence in the,
I
it
understand.
makes it difficult.
I
Okay,
understand.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, go right ahead.
So that's really all I have for a presentation, Madam Chair. I think your agent had a report, and I think I'll just leave it to him to continue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's just.
Kyle, okay with you?
Yeah, I'll pull up the plan just so we can kind of all kind
Yeah.
of see what we're looking at. But I don't disagree with anything that Scott said. So let me go ahead and share this. Yeah, and just to kind of describe the site, as Scott had mentioned, they're looking to expand the existing garage. The existing garage is kind of this faint gray line that forms a square here. The larger box around that is going to be the new footprint for the garage. As Mr. Ferry mentioned, there are erosion controls around the limit of work here, delineated by this solid line with the squares. All of the work, most of the work, is within that 50-foot to 100-foot buffer. There's a slight bit of the erosion controls that go within the 50-foot buffer to the BVW that's kind of delineated back here. And as Mr. Ferry mentioned, all of the work is going to be within the existing lawn area. There is a slight grade sloping back towards the wetland in the lawn, but it's not a substantial, grade change. So yeah, I think this is a fairly straightforward project. It's not within floodplain. They aren't doing any compensatory storage here that needs to be checked. So pretty straightforward for the commission. In my agent report.
Can't hear you.
Oh yeah, I muted myself for whatever reason there. I'm not
Okay.
sure why. But yeah, in my agent report, I'm recommending that the commission does have the information required to issue an order of conditions. I just specified a few special conditions that we should include, talking about the type of erosion controls, where material staging for the project should be located, and that's really it.
And there is room to store the staging materials within the existing footprint of or within the existing property?
Oh yeah, certainly. The language that I included as the potential special condition basically says, well, I can read it to you. Let me.
Outside of the 50, right?
Yeah, basically outside of the 50, and then also not north of that limit of work line.
Right.
So it would kind of just all the material staging would be in the driveway, more or less.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and that's all I've got.
Good. Commissioners, any questions?
No?
Nope, none for me. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Yeah, just straightforward.
Okay. Then a motion, I assume, to close the hearing?
We should maybe see if there is any public comment before we close.
I'm sorry.
If anyone
go
from
there.
the public is in the meeting and wants to speak to this project, please raise your hand and we can promote you.
That's for 446 Rockland.
446 Rockland Street. That's correct. And Madam Chair, I do not see any hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Then I entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I make a motion to close the hearing for 446 Rockland Street.
Second it?
Roll call vote,
Clay, aye.
Nap aye.
and Boris, aye. That motion passes.
Thank you, folks.
Okay, I think we have to vote now, right, for the permit?
Yeah, now we would vote to issue the order of conditions.
So I entertain that motion.
I make a motion to issue the order of conditions with the special conditions outlined in the agent's report for 446 Rockland Street. And I think that's pretty much it.
Mhm.
And I second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to issue the order of conditions for 446 Rockland Street. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Nap aye.
And Boris, aye. I only wish they were all this easy.
Me as
Oh,
well.
me too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferrier. Okay. We'll see you later.
You certainly will.
Okay.
Thank you.
The second new filing, it would be a certificate of a compliance request for a property at 360 Pearl Street. You have an applicant present?
Yes, I do. I've promoted the engineer, so and then I see another hand is raised. I'm gonna message them to see what project they were hoping to speak to. So give me one moment, please.
Certainly. Hello, Ms. De Tunebro. How are you?
Good evening, Madam Chair. How are you?
Good. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Well, you know, when you're getting old and decrepit like me, you don't show up. You don't show up very often, but I've always enjoyed meeting with your commission. You got a great commission. You've got an operation with your agent. You have a system that is working like a well-oiled machine.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
that is really good. It's very refreshing. I don't always, just for the record, I don't always agree with Kyle, but I do respect his professionalism. He's very, very, very thorough. And then of course I get spoiled every time I call your office by Isaiah, and I get spoiled by everything getting spoon fed. So it's really good. So really good. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the office is great. We really appreciate it as
Yes.
managers.
Well, you run a good meeting too, Madam Chair. I just listening to your opening remarks about the Zoom meeting. It was just firing on all cylinders. So that's pretty good.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
So I guess that Veronica person.
Yeah, she was just mentioning that that we were having those issues with the YouTube live streaming. So this meeting, I guess, is not being live streamed, but we will post it the recording after the fact.
Oh, okay, okay, and that was not the person that you were trying to bring into this meeting.
Well, no, she had her hand raised, and that's what she was.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we're ready to roll then, right?
Yeah, for this hearing, yes.
Yep. So, Mr. Ichimiro, if you could please present your information for the.
Okay. Do I have permission to share Kyle? Even though I'm not a young whippersnapper in terms of technology, but I'm going to try to pretend I can use technology. So let me try to share my screen, Madam Chair. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna open up another view. Let's see. So, Madam Chair and Commission members, about a year ago, we had a notice of intent that we filed for 360 Pearl Street. And in that order of conditions that the commission issued for the construction of a single family dwelling, basically this, I don't know if you can see my cursor on this here.
I don't see a map, or I don't see anything other than a whole list of like a
really?
like an index of things that, it just document index that, like, you would click to a document to find. Yeah. I don't see anything.
Okay, let me try it again.
Azu, I've got the as-built pulled up. Is that what you want to show? I can.
Yeah, if you can open up the as-built, as well as what I'm trying to do is open them side by side, the approved plan as well as the as-built plan.
Yeah, I'll be able to toggle back and forth between those.
Okay, great. Okay, I'll stop sharing then. Thank you.
We
Yeah.
have to leave it to the whippersnappers.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, I said it early that I appreciate these young folks.
Me too.
Yeah. So basically, Kyle, if you can toggle to the proposed, and then we'll get back to this one here. Yeah, thank you. Excellent. So what you have here, Madam Chair, members of the commission, is the proposed plan. So the blue, the area highlighted in blue is the proposed dwelling with the garage, and you can see the driveway. What is shown in gray color is the extension of the driveway. There was an existing driveway that terminates at the westerly. So if you're looking at the plan, the top of the plan where it says MVETS to your right, Route 24, that is so looking up the top is my north. And so that to the west of the area shown in gray color as the driveway, that is where the new driveway picks up the existing driveway that is not highlighted because it's existing. And and you can see the proposed grading, the dark solid lines with the numbers around them. And part of the work that was proposed at the time was there had been some clearing that was done along the easterly property line by the highway layout. And the commission required some restoration plan, and which is what you see there shown in green polka dots, if that's what I will call them. And that is the proposed restoration area. And Mr. Ken Thompson, who is, because he still is, the wetlands consultant that did the delineation, he met out there several times with the Kyle's predecessor, Miss Megan Shave. And so they came up with an agreed restoration plan. But what we also did, if you will, is that we proposed a stormwater recharge system to the east of the proposed dwelling where Kyle is showing the cursor. And it's designed for the 100-year storm event to capture the entire roof. And that is what has been constructed. So Kyle, if you could toggle to the as-built, that would be very much appreciated. So you can see on the as-built, the house as it is now existing, and to the east of the house is the recharge system. You can see that the proposed grading pretty much mimics, if you will, the proposed grading. Now, what has happened, if you will, is that at the what I will call the westerly property line that is behind house number, Kyle, if you don't mind zooming to that abutment property just north of the driveway, right there, just so I can capture the number.
352.
Thank you. House number 352. So the southeasterly corner, if you look at the along the east, what I will call the easterly or the rear line of the property hatched in green color, that line is a boundary between numbers 352 and 360. There is a wall and a fence that's been installed along that line. So there was a question, if you will, that there's the existing pines, we're not showing it, but there's a row of pines just east of that fence line, right where the cursor is. So there was a question as to whether there was a drainage puddling in the yard for 352 because of the grading. The grading follows the approved plan. That was Mr. Victorine and that abutter sort of reached an agreement that Mr. Victorine put a stormwater recharge after he was notified by the abutter that there's a pooling in that corner. So he built an elaborate recharge system to capture any water that will be pooling in that area. Now, that recharge system was not laid out by us, but we looked at it and assessed it. So we did file a request for a partial certificate of compliance, which is with your office. That request for certificate of compliance is basically requesting a partial, not a complete certificate of compliance for the house and the recharge system and the vegetation restoration planting that was planted in response to the commission's order. So the planting is elaborate and it's there. Mr. Thompson provided a planting report, and because the reason, just so that you know, the reason we have asked the commission to issue a partial certificate of compliance is in recognition of the fact that the commission noted that the vegetation that's been planted shall undergo a 2 calendar year monitoring as opposed to planting season, growing season monitoring, which would have been fall and spring or spring and fall. The commission, in its wisdom, which we don't have a qualms or issues with, determined that growing season, 2 growing seasons back to back is not sufficient to establish that the planting is successful, and we agree with that. But I think that the fact that it can still be monitored, even if you gave a partial certificate of compliance, and noting in that certificate that there are conditions that are still running with the land that must be complied with, upon which after the 2 years, then we can come back for a full certificate of compliance. And part of the reason, quite frankly, we have filed this request for a partial certificate of compliance is the fact that the applicant, Mr. Victorine, who owns, and incidentally and anecdotally, I might add, has several properties in the city of Bridgewater, in the city of Brockton, and a good taxpayer in the city. I think has this one here under agreement. And so it allows, because, you know, attorneys who do due diligent work will identify the order of conditions as being a lien on the property. That is the reason, that is how you have to be able to comply. And that is the statute that we all operating under. But with the partial certificate, it would allow the purchase to go through, because the people that have bought the property have actually sold where they currently live. And so it puts everybody in a sort of a predicament as to not moving forward. Now, I have read Kyle's agent's report, and I don't have much argument, if you will, with that. And I probably, because I do not like to be a hypocrite, I probably would be writing the same report if I was sitting on that side. But since I'm not sitting on that side, I'm not going to write that report. so that there were, and I believe the building department has communicated, and that's where the city departments work cooperatively with each other. But as you can see, all that area, based on the approved wetlands line and the restoration work, buffer zone enhancement, that area that is at the southeast corner of the abutting property at 352, where the recharge system is installed to capture any water that comes in that low area. Keep in mind there is actually a substantial area between the existing driveway and the, what I will call the southerly property line of 352 that abuts the driveway. That is a
There-
good, very extensive, large area that is more than 10 feet in width.
Mr.
That,
Etenaro, I'm
yes, ma'am.
sorry, I'm sorry to interject, but I want to make sure I'm understanding. So is there another recharge area besides the one that's to the rear of the existing structure? You're saying that there's one up near the 352 up in
Yes,
up
ma'am.
in that corner, but it doesn't
Yes,
show on
ma'am.
this-
Yes, ma'am.
does not
Yes.
show on this as-built?
Yes, right. Because we didn't see that when we did the as-built. And so when it was brought to our attention by the building department and were in the conversation with Mr. Victorine, he showed us the area in question. So
Oh.
that's not captured. But
Okay.
that is right. And then we did not show that or look at that because we didn't see that when we did the as-built. But in terms of the approved plan, this is consistent. And I noticed that that recharge area is well outside the buffer zone anyway. That even if that was to be brought, if I were to propose anything there, I wouldn't come and file a notice of intent because you have an approved wetlands line and it's outside the jurisdiction. But being good stewards of our work, I think it behooves us to work cooperatively with the powers that be, being conservation and the building department, just to make sure that the issue that was raised by the abutter to the building department, that is captured. So what I'm here to suggest to the commission is that I don't see any reason why that should not be addressed, but I think that we have a plan, specific plan that can say, hey, Mr. Forty, the assistant superintendent, and Kyle and us can get together and say, this is the area. So what I'm suggesting, because when you have a lot of financial implications riding on a project like this, where the item of concern has been identified and addressed, but just needs to be provided to the building department to their satisfaction. They will not issue a building certificate of occupancy until that issue is addressed. But we believe, based on what I've seen, and as a licensed professional engineer in the Commonwealth and a licensed light surveyor in the Commonwealth, and have been practicing in the Commonwealth for more than 40 years. Although last week we celebrated my 25th birthday. So I think that we can address that because it's really outside the jurisdiction of the commission, but the building department does have the obligation to make sure that everybody, nobody's adversely affected. But I have a very, very good reason to believe that that can be resolved by next Tuesday. And so what I am pleading with the commission, and I agree with Kyle's recommendations, only to the point that because your next meeting is more than really 4 weeks away, and the closing on this property needs to happen next week. I believe it's in the best interest of Mr. Victorine to address the concern of the building department rather expeditiously. So what I'm imploring the commission, I'm not going against Kyle by any stretch of the imagination, but what I'm proposing as a condition is that the commission vote to issue, because you still have another crack in terms of wetlands regulations, because you're not issuing a full certificate of compliance, you do have another crack at making sure that your order is finally complied with before you issue a full certificate of compliance. So if you were I am pleading with the commission to vote to issue the partial certificate of compliance. However, authorize Kyle not to release the partial certificate until we have verified through the building department that the concern in that corner has been addressed to the satisfaction of the building department. It just allows the closing to move forward without having to wait another almost 5 weeks, because there is just a lot of financial implication involved. And I know that finances are not necessarily the reason to ignore anything. I'm not asking to ignore anything. I think if you don't release the certificate, it has the same full effect of holding it until next time. But if we can now, because this is a building department issue, if we can get that at least voted on and issued, but Kyle maintains the full custody of it and don't release not even a copy until we have a credible evidence that the concern has been addressed with the building department. I think Mr. Victorine understands that, and it's in his utmost interest to move expeditiously. It's just that the timing with the next hearing just puts a lot of financial burden and predicament, both to Mr. Victorine and the people buying the product. That's all. That's my spiel.
Thank you very much, Azu.
Yep.
I think we'd like to hear from Mr. Holden.
Yes.
Kyle?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing screen for a moment. We can put that back up if necessary. In response, Azu, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think that that is a potential path forward here. I just want to kind of highlight some of the language that was in the order of conditions just with the commission quickly. So in the issued order of conditions, it very explicitly states the requirements that the commission is wanting before they issue the partial certificate of compliance. And it also states that the partial certificate should be received by the applicant prior to receiving the certificate of occupancy, which is ultimately what they're trying to get from the building department. So there are really just two conditions that need to be met to issue a partial certificate. One is the restoration planting needs to be at least installed, and those plants have been planted. We've been receiving regular monitoring reports as required in the order of conditions. But the other thing, the other requirement for the partial was that we receive an as-built plan with the elevations, the site elevations on it, which we did receive that. But the language says, so it says, an as-built plan accompanying any request for certificate of compliance shall show final site contours and elevations to confirm that the site grading matches the plan of record. And as we've seen, the plan of record and the as-built, they don't match, and that's something that the builder is willing to work with us and the building department to resolve that issue. And Azu has been working on some sort of engineered potential solutions to that as well. In the agent report, I recommended that we continue this to the next meeting. That way we would have time to meet and, with any attorneys that would be required, and kind of get everyone on the same page between the building department, conservation, the applicant, the builder, and so forth. And I guess those are the requirements that the commission needs to kind of consider before we issue the partial. And then as to Azu's suggestion that we go ahead and vote to issue the partial this month, that way that kind of time frame isn't set back by 5 weeks, 4 weeks, because this problem may be something that we can resolve. And I agree with Azu within a couple of weeks, in which case we would be putting that burden on the builder, an extra 3 weeks just kind of sitting there before the next meeting where a partial could be issued. I do want to just stress to the commission that the building department will not be issuing a temporary certificate of occupancy until this problem is resolved. So by voting to issue the partial, they still are not able to move forward with what they want to do until any of the elevation and grading changes are kind of resolved in a manner that's agreeable to all parties, including the Conservation Commission. Bill Forty, the deputy building commissioner, will work with us to make sure that we're satisfied with whatever happens, whatever solutions is proposed. So, ultimately, this is up to the commission to decide if they feel comfortable issuing that partial, now rather than waiting until we have a plan in place. But the idea is, in addition to having Azu have an engineered solution that's kind of going to be something that we can all agree upon. Bill 40 has also suggested that maybe we come to some escrow agreement so that we set aside some money that can't be accessed until either this engineered solution is put in place to kind of just protect the whoever buys this property from the I'm not saying that this would happen, but this is just to protect the new buyer from the builder just like wiping their hands after the sale and not really addressing the issue before moving forward with the final certificate of compliance. So, I think we can go either way. Really up to the commission on this. I'm willing to answer any questions if the commission or Azu have anything for me.
Yes, thank you, Kyle. I couldn't have stated it better. That's why I said earlier, without even knowing which way it's going to go, that one thing I strive not to be is a hypocrite. And I made the comment that I respect the professionalism of the staff and the commission, and that I've never always got everything my way, but part of being an adult is recognizing that you try your best. If it goes your way, you thank the good Lord above. If it doesn't go your way, you thank the good Lord above, from whom all blessings flow. So what Kylie said is correct. I'm just trying to implore the commission to this because most of the work and where the grading issues is of concern, quite frankly, it's outside the regulatory purview of the commission. But what the building department is saying, because you need that partial certificate, we want to make sure that the conservation works with us. And quite frankly, Mr. Victorine has no problem working with this commission, and I have zero concern that he will deal, just like the order asked that some planting be done. And as Kyle has testified here, the planting was done and is being monitored and reports being submitted. So whatever has been required and identified, Mr. Victorine has made that effort to address it. So with that, I implore, and I will be again pleading that we get a partial certificate, but that Kyle does not release that until he and the building department are satisfied that that work has been done in a manner that protects the interest of the commission and the interest of the building department, and quite frankly, the interest of the buyer. And it behooves Mr. Victorine to do that, because then the buyer can have something to come back on him on. And he has other properties, and this is why it's in his interest to do that. I'm sharing this with you. He has a couple other properties that actually next door and in your jurisdiction. So if he screws this up, guess what? I will not be here asking you for any order of conditions, because I will be like a dog with his tail caught between his legs, running. So that's my pleading, that you vote to issue that partial certificate, because you still have a crack at it with the request for full certificate that will be coming down the pike. And both Kyle and Bill 40, matter of fact, I've known Bill 40 for more than 25 years when he was the chairman of Conservation Commission in Holbrook. So I think you have two great minds working for you in terms of making sure that your statutory interests and regulatory interests are satisfactorily addressed. And that's my pleading to you. And thank you for indulging me, for being patient.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
Yes, I have a few. My concern, so I read through your recommendations, Kyle. I guess my concern is, are we saying that holding off until we get everything to the August meeting, we're saying that between now and August meeting, that work will be sufficiently done to satisfy the building commission issuing the temporary occupancy certificate in that time period?
No, I don't believe that the work itself will have been done in that time period, but we will have come to an agreement as to what will be done to appease all parties.
Hmm.
That agreement then would be kind of enforceable in a couple of different ways. So, there's the monetary piece of that the builder has put down and set
Hmm.
aside. So he's
The
bought
escrow.
that level, but then
Okay.
also, theoretically, if we kind of agree, the commission says, okay, well, we've issued this partial under the understanding, with the understanding that work is done to address these issues. So again, this will eventually have to come back for a full certificate of compliance, and the temporary certificate of occupancy that the building department. I know this is not us, but that would be conditional as well. So we could follow up with an enforcement order potentially too. So I think that and I know that Bill 40 is not going to be moving forward with the occupancy permit until we resolve this. By issuing the partial this month, we would just kind of take away that time constraint. Rather than waiting, because I think something will be agreed upon within a couple of weeks. I don't think it will take that long. But that way, the sale could move forward if we have all the documents signed by the building department and the attorneys and so forth. And that would just help the seller. But
Okay. So this would be us issuing the partial conditions with special conditions following what we've stated in the agent report and all the stuff that we talked about coming
you
to an
know,
agreement.
I don't know that. Yeah, I think so. I think there are some conditions you can, when you issue a partial certificate of compliance, which is what we
Hmm.
would be doing here. You can say that there are certain conditions that are still kind of ongoing. And one of those conditions is, maybe we could say that the condition that talks about the as built being
Hmm.
same as the
As
plot
the
plan.
proposed. Yep.
Right. We can say that that hasn't been confirmed, but we reserve the right to enforce that if the plan does not come to fruition, or we can include language like that. I think. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So those are my concerns that I have, Joyce. But it sounds like if we can issue some conditions, then
You think
I,
it would work?
I think we would be okay. We could, yeah, and working in tandem with the building department.
Mhm. I know for a general rule of thumb, I think we were trying to look at making sure that we had documents in hand when we actually did issue certificates. Because there have been times in the past where those documents were not there and things dragged out for a very long time. And, so I know, just in the interest of caution, to make sure that we have everything that
Mhm.
we need to have. I'm not sure will 1 month make that much difference if the building department is going to be not moving on this until this is all resolved anyway.
Madam Chair, I will tell you, because they need to move in by the end of next week. Unless the building department and Kyle said, oh no, we're not agreeing with your solution. And I don't see any reason why. I have designed numerous facilities in the city that are still operational, both commercial and residential. West Chestnut Street, Pinehurst, Quincy Street, all over. I think what we have here is very, compared to the overall scheme of things, very de minimis. Unless they are not available to meet with us, we have every intention. As a matter of fact, my goal was to contact Kyle and Mr. 40 tomorrow morning and say this is what we propose to do. Can we meet and get this agreed upon? And then Mr. Victorino will hire a contractor to come out there and do that because we are not talking full excavation of the site where we're going to be going into your buffer zone. We're not even going to be in the buffer zone, but we will need to address that concern for the building department. And that's what we intend to do. That work, unless we're not able to meet with Kyle and Mr. 40, I guarantee you my design will be done by Friday if we can meet tomorrow, and that work will start on Monday because Mr. Victorine has a lot riding on it. It is in his best interest to deal with it.
Sharifa?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Certainly, please.
Just one other comment. I don't know that we would be requiring like physical plans for approval here, because again, the work that's being proposed is well outside the buffer zone.
Right.
This is really just like, does the commission think that we are recognizing the fact that the as-built does not match the approved site conditions? And any alterations of the current conditions there that need to be in place to appease the building department and the conservation commission. But that's kind of outside the jurisdictional boundary of the commission. So I think that not having plans in hand, I don't think is a huge problem with this particular portion, assuming we can make sure that any concerns about the grading, which is mostly flooding concerns, can be addressed, and we're not negatively impacting the neighbors around there. I don't really see a problem with issuing the partial now, because there's a whole other step that they have to get through, and they won't be getting that certificate of occupancy until these problems are addressed.
Okay, Sharifa, do you have any questions or comments?
No, just I'm not sure if it's really a big concern. Well, not concern, but why the proposed and the as-built? Why was the as-built not similar to the proposed?
Yeah, how did those changes occur?
No, so if you were to juxtapose both plans, they are, I tell you right now, if you to share those two, they are 90% the same. It's just because there is an expression of concern in that corner. That's the only reason. But generally, because remember, Ms. Mapp, the fact that you are working with an excavator, a bobcat, a backhoe, right? Those are not similar to if I were to go to a tailor to sew a shirt or pants for me. They take my measurements. I'm size 40, but I tell them, no, make me size 36 so I can look fit, right? So they can cut precisely because you have a machine that when you're moving dirt, that's never exactly. That's why the language, if you look at the language of certificate of compliance, issuance, certifications, even that DEP recommend, you have to find that the work is in substantial conformance to the plan. There's never a plan. I would defy anyone to show me a plan that is matches exactly the same, because you're talking moving earth. And it's not the same as if I'm building. Once you move the earth, for example, once you pour a foundation, for example, it's a lot easier to frame a building to match everything exact, because you have a little ruler and you're measuring and you're putting your saw cut and you're cutting precisely. There's no way of cutting dirt precisely. That's all.
That's true, but also if I look at the proposed, there was no deck on there, and there is one on the as-built, and I didn't know if that could have caused some issues with the moving the dirt.
No, because that deck is almost like a building a second story. That doesn't affect the ground, because that's an above ground on posts, so that doesn't affect.
It's just my concern was that there was an addition added without it being approved. So just wondering how that was going to go forward. Like if we okay this partial agreement,
Certificate.
That there could be down the road some changes made with that we didn't approve.
That's why you're not given a full certificate. The site is all done. I assure you that. The only thing that is left is addressing this area that's way in the corner, and then making sure that the plants that are put in there, which actually is more plants than was required. He put on almost 13 more plants. Basically making sure that the planting is successful is what and in that, That he has another year to approve that. So it'll be stupid to screw around with that within. Yes, Madam Chair.
I just have one more question. Do you have any idea why Mr. Victorini would have waited so late and so close to a move-in date to actually ask for this partial certificate? Why
So
did he wait this long?
it's not when you're dealing with finances, and that's why I like it. We're living in a very small house. Okay, when you build a house like that, what happens, Madam Chair, is you build a whole house, you frame it, you paint it and stuff, but the inside you cannot leave alone when you have a buyer and you try to take care of the inside to suit the specific buyer. And so until he had a buyer that he can work with that says, okay, this is how I want the inside to lay out.
Okay,
And that's really what is driving that, because you put a lot of that capital outlay and you don't sell.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot of
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Mhm.
Kyle, anything else that you'd like to bring up?
No, I don't really have anything else. Thank you.
Okay. So then we have one choice or the other choice, right? One would be to deny that partial certificate and work to ask for a continuance. Or not deny, but wait one more month for that, or we can issue a partial now with the understanding that Kyle will be watching closely. And how would we word that? Would we
not release the partial certificate until Kyle is satisfied that the work is kosher.
Kyle, is that okay with you?
Yeah, I think that's fine with me. This would have to be something that both the building department, the builder, and then conservation through me kind of can all agree upon. If that's fine with the commission, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think that sounds like a fair compromise. What do you think, commissioners?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that's fine.
So we need to entertain a motion then to issue for Kyle to issue a partial.
Well, I mean, the commission will be the issuing body, but it won't be released until we have that meeting and everyone's on the same kind of page.
Right. So I'm just not sure the wording of that. So we'll. Anybody want to?
Yep. I make the motion to issue the partial certificate of compliance. And we would be doing with the continuing conditions, right, Kyle? Am I correct in saying that?
We would there would be language in there that we're not releasing the condition. Let's see. It would be E6 that has the as-built language about that matches the proposed.
Okay. Yep. So I make a motion to issue the partial certificate of compliance with the following continued conditions, and plus any other conditions we've discussed.
I second that.
So the motion has been made and seconded to issue partial certificate of compliance for 360 Pearl Street, pending Kyle's receipt and acceptance of
an approvable drainage solution.
Yep.
Okay. Does that sit well with you, Mr. Itanero?
Madam Chair, that is correct. I think it protects the interest of the city, and I will not be adverse to that.
Okay, it's fine. Thank you, and the buyer as well. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, do we need to close people? We don't need to close if it's a partial, do we?
No, a certificate of compliance is not a public hearing, so we don't need to close, and we don't have to entertain public comment.
Okay. Okay, good. So roll call vote then?
Clay, aye.
Knapp, aye.
And Forrest, aye. Thank you, Mr. Itanero.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I really appreciate your help and indulging me. Have a good night.
You too.
Have the rest of the night off. You don't even need to hear anything else.
Stay cool. Stay cool.
Yes, thank you. God bless.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see. Next item on the agenda was certificate of compliance for 196 Manley Street. Mr. Holm, Mr. Fire, how are you? The Equipment East team. That sounds interesting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Scott Farrier from Holmgren Engineering, representing Equipment East tonight. Equipment East has a property on 196 Manley Street that they've been at the property for about 4 years. If you're traveling down Route 24 and you're heading towards the city, you can see Equipment East off to your right hand side, and they've got a beautiful facility, and they sell and rent heavy equipment, backhoes, things of that use, construction equipment. We received both site plan approval and conservation approval back in 2019, Madam Chair, and since then, obviously, Equipment East has moved in. We requested a certificate of compliance back, I believe, in 2020, and I'm going to mess up all the dates, but about 2020, and we had a whole list of issues with the certificate of compliance request and items that weren't exactly matching up with the approved plans, Madam Chair. At that point, there was also an enforcement order issued by the Conservation Commission for some of the work. We're in the process of filing an amended, a request for an amended order of conditions, and that kind of got dropped at some point, Madam Chair, and that leads us to where we are now, a whole bunch of years later, requesting a certificate of compliance. So to kind of fast forward through all of that, there are a couple items that are different than the approved plan that your agent mentioned. There is a sewer line that goes alongside the side of the building closest to the wetland. That was not part of the approved plan that was installed, and that is within your 25-foot buffer zone. And then there was also a Cape Cod berm in the front parking lot that was never installed as part of the parking lot improvements. The drainage system has been installed, and in fact, over the 4 years that they've been there, has been working fine. They've never had any flooding issues, any drainage issues at all. And I guess I should just backtrack quickly. If the property's on Manley Street and the side street is Jonathan Drive, and the wetland is basically a man-made ditch that runs from Jonathan Drive and goes around the perimeter of our property on the east side and the south side. And then the ditch is pretty much the lot line between our property and the Hyundai dealership right next to it.
Mm.
So as I said, it's a man-made ditch that 30, 40, 50 years later has considerable BVW to it with your buffer zones associated with that BVW. So that's really the main part of our work and our issues at this point in receiving the certificate of compliance. So I think your agent did a review of the property, had a couple of concerns that he mentioned. So I think maybe it's best to let Kyle give his story, and I'll stop talking to get us back on track tonight, Madam Chair.
Okay, that'll be great. Thank you. If Kyle, you have a map as well?
Yeah, I can pull that up. One moment.
By the way, do you know if that sewer line was part of the amended order of conditions that was filed way back in 21?
So the amended order was not approved, but Scott, I didn't really look at that much because it wasn't approved. But my kind of understanding of the amended order that you put through was kind of to address some of the concerns raised at the previous time that you applied for a certificate of compliance. So I think that did include the sewer line, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, the sewer line was installed as part of their original construction, and it was their original move-in. During construction, they realized that they couldn't get the floor drains to drain to the back of the building, so they had no choice but to run the sewer alongside the building. To be honest,
Within the 25.
Exactly. Not realizing that it was a big deal. It was kind of a grass area already. They didn't realize that it was a big deal to put it there. So in order to get the drains work, that's the only way they could do it. So honestly, that's why it's there, Madam Chair.
Okay, Kyle?
Yeah, so this is the as-built that they've shared with this current round of certificate of compliance requests. And ultimately, as Scott kind of alluded to, this project has, had some issues in the past, and in the previous certificate of compliance request in the agent report, Agent Shave kind of documented a lot of concerns here, and ultimately nothing really ever came about from really the enforcement order or the amended order with the sewer line. So there's just a lot here, and I'm not exactly sure the best way to move forward. In my agent report, I recommend that the commission just continue this to next month, so I can kind of reach out to DEP to see what they would recommend, because there are a couple different avenues that we can maybe go down here. One of the outstanding concerns is the kind of buffer zone restoration. They did this kind of unpermitted work on the south side of the building. This is okay. Here's the building shape here. This area back behind the building is kind of the area of concern as far as the buffer zone goes. There was very specific language in the original order of conditions that stated that no work was approved in this area, very explicitly called out in the order of conditions. And they did end up installing the sewer line. There was a patch of grass there originally. They've expanded that. They cut into the kind of the woody vegetation of the BVW area, or at least the buffer zone to the BVW. So in the enforcement order that has already been issued, one thing that requested was that they pull up that kind of asphalt covering road that they had on the south side of the building and plant that to grass, and that's been done. It is grassed now, but there was no restoration of the woody vegetation, which was kind of recommended in the enforcement order. Another thing that was brought up in the initial review for the certificate of compliance is that the stormwater features that you can see on the map here in blue had been altered from the approved plan, and at that point the agent recommended that before the commission issues an order or a certificate of compliance, that they have someone, a third party, review all the stormwater here just to make sure that it's in compliance with Mass DEP stormwater standards, and that it kind of follows at least the spirit of the engineering assumptions that were made in the approved plan. And that kind of covers most of the big stuff. Scott said, yeah, there's a berm that wasn't installed on the southern side of the drive over here. That can be here nor there, but I think there are some things that need to be addressed here. The amended order of conditions request that the commission denied, the commission recommended that, or they kind of found that that the amended order of conditions plan was a substantial enough change to warrant a new notice of intent filing. And even if it's an after the fact notice of intent filing for the installation of the sewer line, that may be something that we should do as well. But again, I would like to talk to Mass DEP and kind of see what their recommendations are. The sewer line isn't something that couldn't be permitted. It is not within the BVW boundary itself, but it was not permitted, and that's kind of the rub. So we kind of need to figure out a way to kind of get around that, and then potentially do some more with the buffer zone as far as the restoration for the unpermitted clearing and work that was done back there. So I'm kind of recommending that we continue to next month, have a chance to look at this a little bit more, get some feedback from Mass DEP, and then hopefully we'll have a path forward that I can present to the commission next month.
Yeah. And I think, perhaps after Kyle speaks to DEP, maybe we can have a quick site visit, Madam Chair.
That sounds like a wonderful idea.
Just so we can
great
talk
idea.
about, possibly some restoration or other ideas.
That's
So
a great idea.
Yeah, a
Thank
better
you.
plan coming back before you in a month.
Yeah, if we
Yeah,
could
we can
do
do
that
that.
file before the next meeting, it'd be wonderful.
That
Yeah,
would be
sure.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a good idea. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Commissioners?
No questions. Kyle and Scott pretty much kind of laid things out. I think we do need to do the continuance, and I do appreciate the recommendation from Scott about the site visit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So I entertain a motion then to continue 196 Manley Street to the August meeting with a site visit scheduled in between.
Yep, I make a motion to continue 196 Manley Street to the August 21st meeting, with the expectation of the site visit and getting the Mass DEP details.
When I second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Nat, aye.
And Boris, aye. So we will see you again on Best docket, Mr. Farrier, next month.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay. So it's on the agenda. Number 5. Okay. Hold on. Okay, it's the request for a determination of applicability, an RDA for 125 Pearl Street with Wylands Trust.
Yeah, there are a few people from Wylands here. I've promoted them to panelists.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. How are you all?
I'm fine,
Uh,
thank you.
All right, yeah. So second summer, coming back for our outdoor classrooms. The elementary schools in Brockton. We're here for boardwalk that we're proposing at the Hancock School.
Could I just have your name, please? I see Mr.
Yeah,
Gray.
sorry.
I'm
It's
sorry, you're not
Owen.
Mr. Gray, I don't think.
I am. I'm Owen Gray.
Oh, you are Owen. Okay, I'm
Yes.
sorry. I thought that was still me finding you. Okay, thank you, Owen.
Yeah, I think last year I had long hair and a mustache. So.
Okay.
But yeah, we're here to talk about our boardwalk. We're proposing a 100-foot raised boardwalk and to be built in an existing trail. It will actually be part of 2 loops that we'll be building at the school. And one of them will be built. This one exists already, and will serve as a nature trail for classes to go out. And yeah, there's and we're looking at lifting it up 2 feet. It'll have ramps on both ends, and not actually digging anything into the ground for this, so we won't be disturbing anything there. But yeah, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Mr. Holder, do you have anything that you'd like to add before the commission begins?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I'm going to share my screen. I've got kind of a map pulled up as well, so we can kind of look at this. So this is at the Hancock School, and the Hancock School is surrounded. Well, they own some property that's all wooded there on their lot, but then it's also adjacent to some conservation land as well. Anyway, so as Owen had mentioned, they're looking to work on some existing trails and add some new trails back to the school owned lot in order to allow classes to go out and access a couple different kind of areas that they want to use for outdoor classrooms. The reason that we have this in front of us tonight is because there are wetlands in the woods, and one of the trails that currently exists already goes through one of these wetlands. And so as Owen had mentioned, the idea here is they want to, in order to increase access for people that are different, able to move, so like crutches, wheelchairs, we want to be able to allow everyone to have access to this learning area. So they are proposing that they build a kind of a boardwalk that will go through the actual wetland resource area itself, because that obviously floods and is boggy occasionally throughout the year. So the screen that I've shared here, I'm just going to kind of walk through this with you. The white line with the triangles is the flagged BVW, and then the kind of thatched turquoise area through here is the layer on Mass Mapper that says, oh, this is probably a wet area. The red line is the trails, and I don't think, oh, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think all of these are currently in place, but certainly the trail that goes through the wetland already exists.
Yes, it does. The only part that does not formally exist is the furthest west portion.
Over here.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That was kind of what I thought as well. Owen and I had walked this before. So in any case, as Owen had mentioned, there's not going to be any excavation as part of this project. They are proposing to construct this 100-foot boardwalk in 10-foot sections and then carry them back to where they will be installed. No excavation. These will just be sitting on footings that are 4x4 pieces, of lumber that will just rest on the top of the ground. And I guess that's really it for as far as the description of the project goes. Does the commission have any questions about what work is being proposed?
I just have a quick question. It looks like you'd have to obviously go within the 25-foot to get to that wetland area, and a 10-foot segment of pre-constructed boardwalk sounds pretty heavy. How do you expect to get it in there?
Yeah, so we built the frame outside of the wetland area, carried in with 4 people, just one person on each corner. And we've got a group of high schoolers from Brockton working with us this summer. So we'll have plenty of hands for it.
Oh, so you lay the decking afterwards. You just put down the frame. Okay.
Yep.
And then when you said the 4x4 posts, are those posts like hammered in, or you said footings of some sort?
No, they'll just rest on the ground, and we'll fasten each 10-foot section to form one connected 100-foot section, and it holds right there.
Okay, and it doesn't. Okay. Okay. Does it shift or anything when the ground is wet or any of that stuff, or?
Yeah, I was gonna say, does it weather play any role in it shifting or changing, or like heavy snow on it?
Or ice?
It's a good thing that what you're doing for the school. I just want to make sure, I just want to make sure the stability and the stuff is there. And
Absolutely. So, well, our plan is set it just on the ground to start, and monitor it if we need to. What we do is you can lift it pretty easily, get underneath the footings, and just place a larger, like a 2x6, 2x8 underneath it to disperse the weight a little bit more to keep it from sinking, if it does.
Are there any photographs of what it would look like, or I think I missed that? Okay, let me see this.
Is this similar to some of the other ramps that are in the Wilderness Trust property?
Yes, this same exact design can be found at Brockton Audubon Preserve and at the Stone Farm Preserve.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any questions? Any additional questions from the commission?
Is the wood chemically treated at all? Is that an issue at all?
The wood is pressure treated lumber, but that's why we do our cutting off-site.
Okay. Kyle?
Yeah, I guess I was muted. May I offer my recommendation?
Certainly.
Yeah, so in my agent report, I am recommending that the commission issue a -2 determination. And what that means is the commission finds that the work described in the request is within an area subject to jurisdiction under the act, but will not remove, fill, dredge, or alter the area Therefore, the said work does not require the filing of a notice of intent, basically allowing this project to continue.
Commissioners, any questions?
No,
No.
sounds good to me.
Okay. I entertain a motion then, that a -2 determination be issued for 125 Pearl Street.
I make the motion to issue the -2 determination for 125 Pearl Street.
May I second that?
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, eye.
Yep, aye.
And Boris, aye. Thank you for doing this for the kids at Hancock. It's great.
Oh, yeah,
You.
of course. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Good. That feels good, doesn't it? Okay, so let's see. We have a continuation number 6, continuation of number 7. 155 Winthrop Street, is that our next one?
That is correct.
And that's a remediation. Oh, yeah, riverfront restoration. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and the representative of the applicant is not able to attend the meeting tonight, so I'm just going to kind of review this with the commission. And if you have any questions that I can't answer that you want to ask the representative directly, we can always push this off until next month. Yeah, this is an after the fact notice of intent filing that was filed at the request of the commission after the issuance of an enforcement order for the unpermitted paving of an entire backyard up to a brook. It's called Cold Spring Brook on the northern end of the property. As part of this after the fact notice of intent, we required a restoration plan be put forward to the commission, which we have been reviewing. Initially, Mass DEP issued some technical comments that have been addressed, and the plan has been modified. Most of those technical comments were just concerns about the species selection for the types of plants for the restoration plan. So we've modified that species list to adhere to the suggestions of Mass DEP. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so I can this. What I'm going to share now is the revised restoration plan. And what we've got here is erosion controls on the northern end of the property between where the pavement ends and the brook bank, basically at the top of the brook bank. We will have, so the dark gray that's kind of back here, that's all the current asphalt. So what we are having them do is they will be removing all of the asphalt basically 30 feet from the bank. We will be restoring the first 25 feet of that buffer zone in the riverfront area. The entire riverfront area will be restored. And then there will be a 5-foot like gravel, gravel strip, filter strip before we get to the actual riverfront restoration area. The driveway does pitch slightly, downwards towards the north end of the property. So we thought we added this gravel strip here just to kind of slow that water down, so it's not just running immediately into the restoration area and to the riverfront area that we're trying to restore. And that's really it. We're requiring that they remove the pavement and do this restoration planting. This is the plan. I think this is an approvable plan. I think this is fine to move forward on. The reason we haven't talked about this for months is because, as you can see on this, there's a lot more asphalt that is within jurisdiction of Concom. So it's not really the wetland buffer. We're really looking at the buffer to bank. So we have, in Brockton, we have a 25-foot riverfront area, but we also have a 100-foot jurisdictional buffer to bank, which would basically be this green line here. So I was working with some other city departments to see if, because there are other violations that aren't Concom violations on this property, and I was trying to work with them to see if we could loop all those violations together and do one resolution action, rather than having us require them to do something and then a year later have the building department require them to do something, and then 3 years down the line, DPW comes at them with a different request. Unfortunately, that didn't really pan out, and I wasn't really able to come to any sort of agreement with these other departments. So at this point, we're just going to move forward unilaterally as the Conservation Commission, requiring the 25-foot riverfront restoration. So yeah, that's kind of where we are now. In the last month, I did reestablish contact with the property owner, and they verbally, agreed that they still wanted to move forward with the notice of intent, and agreed to follow through on the restoration project once this is approved. So that's kind of where we are now. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those. And then in my agent report, I did include, should the commission choose to issue an order of conditions tonight, some special conditions that I would recommend be included in those order of conditions.
Including the professional engineer, right, and wetland scientist.
As an environmental monitor, yes.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Kyle, could you just zoom in a little bit for me, please? Or for anyone?
Yeah. You want the
Yes.
top part of the plan?
That was it. Thank you.
And what's the distance across that yard, you know? From left to right?
About 55.
55. Okay. 55 by 20. Okay. Commissioners, any questions at all?
I guess I don't really have questions, as long as, I mean, what Kyle's got listed in the agent report, that's going to be part of the special conditions for issuing the
Right.
orders of condition, correct?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Then, I mean,
Tarifa, any questions from looking at your Zoom? Your close up.
Nope, no questions from me.
Okay. Is there anyone here from the public that is has their hand raised to be recognized? Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, of course. I do not see anyone with their hand raised.
Okay. Commissioners, you feel comfortable with moving forward with an order of conditions?
Yes.
The one thing that I guess I would, one final comment, Madam Chair.
Okay, please.
One of the special conditions that I outlined in my agent report was that because this is in response to an enforcement order, I included language in there requiring the restoration work to be done in the calendar year 2024. When you do a restoration planting, you need to either plant in the spring or in the fall to increase the success rate, survival rate of those restoration plants. So, the idea would be to have them do that this fall. I think that, if the commission chose to, we could extend that deadline to the first half of 2025. So they would either have the opportunity to do that, the planting in the fall or next spring. That's really up to the commission.
that makes sense.
So we can extend that number 7, completed within, 6 months?
Yeah, I can work on the language, but as long as the commission is okay with allowing them basically two planting seasons, yeah.
That's fine, that's fine.
Okay. All right, well, yeah, I will modify that.
Yeah, we have a lovely rainy fall, like sometimes, or whatever, though it's fine. It's fine. So then I entertain a motion then to close the hearing on 155 Winthrop Street.
I make a motion to close the hearing on 155 Winthrop Street.
I second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to close the hearing. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Not I.
And Boris, aye. That motion passes. And now we entertain the motion to issue a order of conditions, with, well, you can word it, Ruby or Sharif.
I make a motion to issue the orders of conditions with special conditions and general conditions based on the items outlined in the agent report for 155 Winthrop Street.
And I second that.
Okay. That motion has been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, I.
Nap aye.
Boris, aye. And Kyle, this is a wonderful example of how you do go above and beyond to help to provide to the applicants, I think. Thank you.
Oh,
You do
yeah,
a
of
great
course.
job. You do a great
Thanks.
job. Okay. Let's see. That is number 8. Number 9 was continued, 10 was continued, 11 continued. 12 Quincy Street.
Yeah, I believe
Okay.
in an email, Scott mentioned that he wanted to speak to the commission. Oh, he's still here.
Okay.
I have nothing else to do on a hot summer night. Good evening again, Madam
Hi.
Chair. Scott Farrier from Holmgren Engineering, representing Charlie Macy on his residential subdivision off of Quincy Street and Debbie Road. We were before you folks a couple of months ago and made our original presentation. I just didn't want to go too long without just kind of filling the commission in on where we stand. So after that, subsequent to that, we did receive our review from Beta Engineering. We've made what we feel are all the changes to Beta. We'll be submitting that back to Kyle tomorrow for his submission back to Beta, and hope that we can come back before you at your August meeting with a blessing from Beta and some conditions from Kyle, and be ready to proceed with a 18 lot subdivision over there in Quincy Street, which is I think that neighborhood could, it doesn't have that much new construction going on in it. So I think it'll be an exciting thing for the neighborhood. But there was just a couple of things that came up in Beta's review that I just wanted to quickly tell the commission about. Beta had some concerns about a possible stream within the BVW area. And we sent our botanist back out on the site in the area that they were talking, although it does have a bank and the look of a stream, there is no running water there. And in fact, it's shown as an intermittent stream and qualifies as an intermittent stream under the stream stats program and a whole bunch of other criteria. So we do not have an additional resource area on site. But even having said that, one request that Beta made was to move the location of the cross-country water and sewer just to get away from the location of that bank. So we've done that, and you'll see that on these on the revised plans at our next meeting, Madam Chair. But again, it's the project, the roadway, one is coming off of Quincy Street, one's coming off of Debbie Road, and we were hoping to loop both the water and the sewer out to a side street, Charlotte, to provide both a looped water for fire protection and for pressure issues with the city, and not have a dead end road and alleviate an existing dead end water main. So it was really, after meeting with the DPW, it was really important that we were able to loop that water main. It does go through the wetlands, as we had discussed previously, just as a temporary disturbance, and then everything will be restored and hopefully to a better condition than it sits currently. But really, that's it. Like I say, Madam Chair, I just didn't want to go too long without filling you folks in, and didn't want you to think we had dropped the ball on anything.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Yeah, Beta's response was pretty lengthy, so I'm sure you had a lot to talk about with them. Yeah.
We did.
Okay. Sharifa or Ruby, questions or comments? Kyle?
No comments from me. Thank you.
No? Okay.
None.
Then I guess it's continued.
Yeah, I think we should vote to continue since we've kind
Okay.
of spoken about it tonight.
Yep. So I entertain a vote, please, to continue 339 Quincy Street till the August meeting.
I make a motion to continue 339 Quincy Street to the August 21st meeting.
And I second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, I.
Yep, aye.
And Horace, aye. The motion passes. We
All
will
right.
see you next month.
You all folks, that's it for me tonight. Thank you. Have a good
Okay.
evening.
Relax. Have a good night. Okay, the next one was 10:05 Belmont, and I believe did I see a message from?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they've requested a continuance last minute. So yes,
Okay,
continue to the August meeting.
okay, thank you. And then we have a continuance of 14, 15, and 16.
Yeah, that's
So
correct.
yeah, great. So just the enforcement orders then, correct?
Yes. So I guess I'll begin, if that's all right, with number 17, which is 411 Warren Avenue. So this is an enforcement order that was issued, I think, in September of last year. And we've been working with the homeowner trying to get a restoration plan. This is the site where they built a kind of a retaining wall right at the bank of the river that goes through right there on Warren. And then they backfilled it with some excavation that they were just finding, in the basement, other locations they were bringing in material. Anyway, the wall itself isn't something that could not be permitted. There is a world in which a retaining wall could be built there, but it needs to be engineered, and because it's what they call an unbalanced wall. So there's fill on one side and there's nothing on the other side. So just for stability and safety reasons, if these walls are higher than 3 feet, they need to be engineered walls. And then obviously there was this work that was done in the buffer zone, so that was jurisdictional. So I was talking with the homeowner about how to resolve this, and I suggested that we could do an after the fact notice of intent. In either case, the existing wall would need to be removed. Even if they wanted to put a new wall in, the existing wall was made out of spare brick and pieces of concrete, and then all kind of mortared together with concrete. So it just not really a safe situation. So the homeowner kind of expressed that she was not interested in replacing the wall, and she was just fine with removing the unpermitted wall section. And so that discussion happened within the first couple months of the issuance last year in September. In the remaining 6 or 7 months, she's just been struggling finding someone who will put together the restoration plan for her. This restoration plan is fairly simple. It would just need to include, erosion controls along the bank, the riverside of the wall, and then a description of how they're going to be removing the material. And then just the whole thing would just need to be reseeded to grass, and that's really the extent of what the commission was really looking for out of this. But unfortunately, we were not supplied a restoration plan for one reason or another. I mean, we were very close at one point 3 or 4 months ago. She had plans that she kind of had submitted to me. They just weren't quite up to par as far as what we needed for a restoration plan. So I gave them some feedback as what else they needed to include. And as soon as that happened, I actually sat down with her and the person who made the plan for her and gave them some feedback, and then they just left and abandoned her with this partial plan. So in any case, it's been this whole ordeal, but at the end of the day, last month we kind of decided that we would give her until this meeting to get a plan before us. And we have not received that plan. So last month we talked about referring this to the law department to get this resolved.
Okay. And she is not present, I assume.
No, I did not see her in the attendees list. I did reach out via email shortly after the June meeting and just informed her that this is the route that we're going to be going, and I never heard a response back. She has been very communicative up until this point, so I think she just is ready to do whatever has to be done. So I guess what I'm looking for is maybe a vote from the commission to have me refer this to the law department.
Yes. Yep. Yep, I'd like to entertain a vote to refer this particular law enforcement 411 Warren Avenue to the Law Department.
I second that.
So the motion has been made and seconded to refer 411 Warren Avenue to the Law Department. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, I.
Knapp, aye.
And Boris, aye. Okay.
All right, great, thank you.
Will she still have to get someone to do it? So if the judge says she has to do it?
Yes.
Okay. And the last one is 1507 Main Street, Brewster Ambulance property. Is anyone here for that property?
Yes. Would you like me to give a quick summary of events, or?
Oh yeah, it's an enforcement order. Sure. I'm thinking it was an applicant. Yep, please.
Sure. So this is the Brewster Ambulance property at 1507 Main Street. Basically, they had come into a verbal agreement with the neighboring property to allow them to park some equipment on Brewster's property. Unbeknownst to Brewster's, they came in and they added kind of a recycled kind of asphalt topper to that area. And that's when it came to my attention, and we issued an enforcement order for that unpermitted kind of paving of that area, and required a restoration plan be submitted to the commission, which was just submitted to us about a month ago. And I just had a chance now to kind of really review that. So I've issued an agent report both to the applicant, but also to the commission, just kind of reviewing what the restoration plan that they've submitted, and raised a couple of concerns. And I know that Rich is online here to kind of talk about the report as well. So I guess at this point, we can let them speak if that's fine. And I've got more things to say later on. I've got one more person that's raised their hand to talk about this. I'm going to promote them to panelists as well.
Hi, Mr. Grundahl.
How are you? Evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Sure, we're all thrilled to be here on a nice, beautiful night here. So we have Margaret Bacon from Ecosystem Solutions, kind of has the plan developed, and will be able to answer questions a whole lot better than I would ever be able to regarding the concerns with the proposed plan.
Okay. Ms. Bacon, hi.
Sure. Good evening. Margaret Bacon. I'm a professional wetland scientist and also a licensed engineer with Ecosystem Solutions. And we prepared a restoration plan for this project. And I don't know if Kyle, you can pull that up on the screen, or?
Yeah, I certainly can. Give me one moment.
Sure. So basically what we did here is Ecosystem Solutions did a wetland delineation last year, and also did a drone flyover in an effort to prepare a plan showing where the impact area was, and using that aerial, we've incorporated that into this restoration plan. So as you can see in this aerial, and maybe Kyle, you can just point out the area that's been filled in that is going to be restored. And I guess there's questions whether, how much of what was filled in was a wetland, or is it just buffer zone restoration? And I think along the edge of the wetland line, based on Mr. Faniff's report, it looks like there was kind of an abrupt slope, which is an indicator of filled wetlands. So there could be some filled wetlands along the edge of that wetland line. But as you gradually go up the slope there, it's probably more of just a buffer zone restoration. So it's probably gonna be a combination of both, and we probably really won't know until we get out there with the excavator and start pulling out the old pavement. And that'll indicate, you know, how far down we have to go, and are we doing a wetland restoration or just buffer zone restoration to remove the foreign material?
If I could say, for what it's worth, I actually used to work at this property when it was a Chevy dealership, so I've got some good history on how things were and where they are now. And once I caught wind of the scale of the work that Simonelli had done to it, I kind of went back on the camera footage, and they weren't trucking any fill in or anything like that. It just looked like they had cleared out all the grass and growth, and then put down the infamous paving material there.
Mr. Grandel, do you know how long Brewster's owned that property?
I want to say it was 2017 because I was actually, it might have been 2016 because Chevy, we had actually moved over to not West Chestnut there, right on the corner of 123.
Yeah.
Pearl Street, sorry. So I want to say it was right around 2016, 2017.
Okay, so it's fairly recent. Kyle, did you have something that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I guess in the HR report, you know, there are some things I was recommending. If we were just to move forward with the plan as proposed here, there's some additional information that the commission will require before we can approve the plan. But yeah, ultimately, what I kind of wanted the commission to discuss this evening was how we wanted to approach this restoration, because initially I thought that it was going to be a simple matter of just kind of removing that you know, the recycled asphalt top that they put on, just, you know, going down to existing grade native soil conditions, and then doing a restoration planting, which is fairly straightforward. But you know, based upon the report that was submitted, you know, there is some historic fill potentially. Well, there is historic fill that's there. How historic is the question. And you know, so I did some just a review of some aerial photos on photography. So if I could share that just to kind of go through that quickly here, that would be fine. Okay, one moment. Make sure I have the right thing. All right, so this is just off of Mass Mapper. So these are just aerials. Some of them are satellites, some of them are plane flyovers. This black and white photo, so this is the lot in question here, this paved area. The area of concern is kind of this rectangular area here. I believe this is just kind of a ditch that runs along back through here. That's what these lines are through here. But this is the area that the enforcement order was issued over. So this is sometime in the 1990s. It's a very big window, 10 years, unsure when this was taken. But we're just going to kind of go through a series of aerials here. So this is the picture from 2021, and I just wanted to note that the vegetation seems fairly contiguous between these two parcels here. They get a little clearer as we move forward. So the next one.
I don't want to interrupt you there. That definitely is not from 2021 because that was, I believe, it was like a nursing home that was there.
I maybe misspoke. 2001. I may have.
That make a little more sense.
Yeah. So 2001, and then this. So that's what this photo is from. The next one is 2005, and this one's pretty blurry, not very helpful. The next series is 2008 or 2009. And this was a pretty clear shot, so you can see that, you know, there are trees and things that are in this region. Moving up to 2011 to 2012, a little bit of snow there, but again, still kind of contiguous vegetation, a large tree coverage between these two areas. The next one is 2013 to 2014. And so you can see here's where a majority of the disturbance occurred, which was, you know, before we were made aware of this last year in 2023. So, and I'm not sure exactly what work was done here. Obviously, they've removed all that vegetation. There may have been some grading involved, some fill added here, unsure. But this is where a majority of the disturbance before the adding of the asphalt kind of happened. I'm going to go through the next series of steps up until like the current layers. And you can see this one zooms out. And it's basically just grassed here. You can see that it's not bare dirt.
What year is that?
That is 2015. And then the next one is a big jump to 2019. And again, I think we can zoom in here. And so, yeah, it looks like it's just been maintained as a grassed area. The next one is 2021. And there may be some small woody vegetation that's beginning to kind of grow here. Not really clear, but the important portion here is that, obviously now it's paved, but back in 2013 or 14, there was some disturbance there as well. So again, I'm not sure what was done here, if they added fill or if they just kind of regraded the area. So the question, I guess, in my report that I have for the commission is how do we want to guide this restoration? Are we comfortable just allowing this to kind of function as a buffer zone to the wetlands to the west of the property? If you look around this area, obviously it's parking lot. This is not a great as far as like the health of the wetland. If we restored wetland in this little chunk here, it would be immediately adjacent to the parking lot. So any oil, salts, sand could potentially be running off into that wetland. The alternative is we can just allow this to be restored in kind of a buffer zone capacity and not worry so much about the hydrology of the area. In which case, just kind of a basic restoration plan, remove the asphalt, recycled asphalt topper that was put on, and then just kind of put plants in there and have it function more like a buffer zone. So wetland restoration is going to be a lot more work, and it's going to be a lot harder to really replicate that wetland hydrology that's required. Whereas the buffer zone, we wouldn't necessarily need to be worrying about that. So I just kind of wanted to talk to the commission and see what the commission's thoughts were on how to guide this restoration forward, because that would change my recommendations and also change what kind of plan they are putting forward for the commission to consider.
Kyle, I just have a couple of questions. Was there ever a permit pulled to do that clearing in the first place? Because it looks like it's pretty close to a resource area. Well,
as far as I'm aware, no, this was unpermitted work here, and so in either case, the work was not permitted. So we're trying to resolve that now. But how extensive of a restoration are we looking for?
And I know when Ms. Bacon from Ecosystem Solutions began to, when she did her presentation, she was speaking about how they could actually kind of work in sections and see what they discovered along the way. Is there some way we might get a report from her as they take the top off to see what, or is that not reasonable?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I might interject, I've worked on a lot of these wetland restoration projects, and I find that sometimes wetland restoration is a whole lot easier than wetland replication. Because basically you're just going down and you're removing the fill, as long as we don't run into some unknown materials. We don't have X-ray eyes, but if there's not a lot of fill there, we're going to go right down to the original wetland. And a lot of times, once that original wetland is exposed again and the seed stock is still quite active, a lot of times the natural vegetation will come roaring back. So I think what's going to happen on this site, I know right up against the wetland line, there's a lot of knotweed. So, that's going to be an issue. But I think, so probably I'm just guessing right here, maybe the first 10, 20 feet, we might run into some wetland that was filled, but I think as it gradually goes up the slope, we're going to be in buffer zone. So I think it's going to be a combination of both. And you'll also notice what I did on the plan is because all the pavement slopes towards this wetland. So I included this wetland swale that right in the center of it. You can see that blue line. So that will catch a lot of the pavement runoff, put it in a vegetated ditch with check dams. to help, clean up the water and then funnel it eventually into the BVW in one location.
Right.
It also helps, provide water budget to the, the wetland area. So utilizing the stormwater runoff coming off the pavement, putting it in that swale, cleaning it up as much as you can, but this restored wetland or buffer zone will, function as serve a couple of purposes. That was my intent. And then all the plants that I have listed there are the same type of native wetland plant species that are further in that wetland.
Uh-huh.
That was my thought as I pulled this plan together. So really what's going to come right down to it is once, you get ready to start construction, the wetland specialist is right out there with the excavator dictating the grading. And I can beef up a better restoration plan, kind of detail and, the construction sequence a little better than what I have on this plan. I think that was some of Kyle's comments, doing a better write-up on the restoration plan and then a monitoring plan afterwards.
I'm happy with the presentation, actually. Thank you very much. Kyle, do you have any?
No, I think that was very helpful.
Yeah.
The description of how this would actually occur
Yeah.
in the field. So no, I'm comfortable moving forward with the proposed restoration plan as we see that here, and making modifications as we go forward. I just wanted to have the opportunity to have the commission weigh in on that kind of But it sounds like we're kind of doing a hybrid approach anyway. A little bit of buffer zone, a little bit of wetland. So yeah, I think that's fine.
Commissioners, any questions or anything? Any comments?
No, I agree. I do like the presentations. Thank you, Ms. Bacon, for doing that. I think it's really good, and I think it serves the purpose of the recommendations that Kyle made, since they're going to include kind of both the buffer zone and what part in the part of the BVW that needs to be restored. I think that all makes sense. So it sounds like a good plan, and I'm all right with it.
Sharifa, any questions or comments?
I think everybody summed it up, so.
Good. Mr. Grondell, I think you found yourself a keeper.
I was gonna say Margaret's a lifesaver there, because I would have been just fumbling on all the words when you asked me a question.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So we will be in communication, Margaret, about you can send a revised plan to me. We can kind of work through that. But the ultimate goal here is to have a plan that's got everything together that the commission can kind of approve, and then we'll move forward with that plan as it's completely fleshed out.
Yeah, that was very well done. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very
Take
much.
care, Mr. Grondell. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye. Okay. Let us hope it will cool off tonight. Any questions, comments? Ready to roll?
None. It was a good meeting.
Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
5:30. Have a wonderful night. Thank you, Kyle, again for everything.
All right, no problem. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.